Coming up on episode 402 of Wheel Bearings, we've got the Cadillac Lyriq, the Subaru Forester Hybrid, Toyota Camry Hybrid. Toyota launches 3 new or updated EVs this week. Nicole drives the Ford Expedition for 2026. I drive the GMC Hummer, or actually ride in the GMC Hummer for 2026. Ram Charger is delayed again. What to get if you don't fit in a Miata. Apple's CarPlay Ultra, and the updated Infiniti QX60. All that and more coming up next. This is episode 402 of Wheel Bearings. I am Sam Abul-Samad from Telemetry.
And I am Nicole Wakeland of Top Speed, and also really sorry I hung up on the podcast. There's a leave studio and an end recording. The buttons are both red. Anyway.
Well, it's StreamYard's fault, not yours.
It's totally StreamYard's because they should.
UI design problem.
Exactly. It should have been more clear that the red buttons did not do the same thing. I thought it just ended my recording. I didn't even see the leave studio until afterwards when Sam posted it. It's like, Nicole accidentally disconnected. I'm like, oh my gosh, I did. I didn't even know I did it. So sorry, everyone. That was my fault. Sorry.
That's okay.
And I'm Roberto Baldo from SAE, and I haven't messed up anything lately.
He's perfect. Roberto's perfect.
Didn't want to say anything, but
that's why we keep Robbie around.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
All right. So, Nicole.
Yes,
what
sir.
have you been driving?
I have been driving the 2025 Subaru Forester Hybrid, and the Hybrid is all new this year, so that is the big deal. The starting price for the Hybrid is $34,995. The starting price for the Forester overall is $29,695. So you pay, what is the math there? $5,000 ish premium in order to get the Hybrid. They're both powered by a 2.5 liter 4-cylinder. But of course, one's a hybrid that's paired with electric motors. So the base standard gas engine, 180 horsepower, 178 pound-feet. The hybrid gets a little bit more. It gets 194. It doesn't give me a combined torque on here, and I'm not doing the math, but let's just say it's more. 154 from what? Oh my gosh, it gave me it in like 3 different pieces.
It's probably around 200-ish.
Probably about 200 if I'm glancing at this right. Both have a CVT, which I'm not a huge fan of in this. I feel like it's a little bit, it's a little noisy in the Forester. It feels a little like a CVT. Sometimes they fool you and you don't really notice them. I kind of notice it in this one. All-wheel drive is standard, which is a big deal, and especially up here in New England, where now it is cold enough that my husband turned the heat on for 2 minutes. I just like to confirm. It is May 18th. My husband turned the heat on for 2 minutes to take that chill off in our house just now. So for fuel
even here in Michigan, it's not. We haven't got the heat on.
Yeah.
I don't think. Maybe it is. I don't know. But last night my wife did bring in her tomato seedlings because it got down into the 40s.
It got chilly, right?
Yeah.
So that's what it's been doing. So it's kind of cool in the mornings, and I think we're going to get rain. So there's not much sun. But anyway, the Hybrid does get, for that extra cash that you're laying out, it does get better fuel economy. The EPA combined is 35 miles per gallon for the Hybrid. It's 29 for the gas engine. So that's a bit more. But like the thing of it is, it's like, even when you have, like, yeah, you are getting better fuel economy, but you're paying, if you do the math, the break-even point, how much more do you have to drive to really make that fuel economy like even out, you know? So it's great because, you know, you're not using gas, but I don't know how much, unless you're like a salesman traveling all over the place, or you're one of the people who still has a crazy long commute, or you're doing really long road trips. I don't know how much that actually benefits you. Some other just basic details on it. Infotainment, it's a dual 7-inch touchscreens on the base trim only. The rest of it gets an 11.6-inch screen that's mounted vertically on the dashboard. So it looks like you put a tablet right on there. You get wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto also. So those are all good things. I'm not a big fan of the infotainment, not so much the system itself, but something about the screen. It says it's a high resolution screen. I don't know if it's the font or the sizes of the icons, but it looks very dated when you look at it. Somehow it doesn't have the look of those crisp new screens that you see in cars. Like, it looks like it should have been in a car 3 or 4 years ago. It works. It's fine. It has all the stuff you need on it, but it just isn't a great setup. And I, of course, had the larger screen. I didn't have the dual. So I'm not super keen on that. Driving it, it's perfectly fine. It's a Subaru. It has enough power, but like I said, it's a little bit on the noisy side. If you mash that gas pedal to accelerate onto the highway, it's going to move just fine. It'll get you up to speed, so you have no problem merging into traffic. A little bit of oomph left over if you got to pass a slow guy in the highway. And driving around town, it's obviously just fine. It handles well. This is not a sporty car. It's just not sporty. That's not its mission, so to speak. So it's not especially sporty, but it isn't a slouch and it isn't like not fun to drive. It's very Subaru in that it feels like you can go out in the muck and the mud and it's not going to get stuck, because there's also their enhanced X mode dual mode, X mode dual mode, which has hill descent control to help you give a little bit more off-road oomph to it. I feel like it's the things this does well. If you're an outdoorsy type, even just looking at the trims in this, the quality of everything, if you're an outdoorsy type, you don't feel like it's going to get destroyed the first time you're in it with mud or muck, or you throw wet clothes in the back, or you've got, boots, or you've got some kind of a camping equipment. It feels like the kind of car that's designed to not be especially fancy and pretty, but to be attractive and not be sensitive to outdoor adventuring. I think it's a great car for families. Overall, I like it. There's some competition out there, like the RAV4. It starts at a lower price. It has good fuel economy, but it doesn't have standard all-wheel drive, and it's not as off-road like worthy as the Forester. And pricing wise, its hybrid starts at, I think, about 32. So pricing wise, it's a little bit more affordable, but you're not getting all-wheel drive. But the RAV4 is a great competitor to this. You also got something like the CRV, which again, their hybrid starts at about 35. So it's exactly in the same ballpark. It's a nicer interior. It's a little bit more refined. Again, though, not standard all-wheel drive, and it's not as capable as the Forester. So if you're looking for that sort of ruggedness, that durability, and a little extra capability, not an off-road rock crawler, but you're probably going to be able to make it through the average, dirt trails or light off-road stuff. The Forester is a great choice. So overall, I liked it.
So as you were describing that,
yes,
I pulled up some information because you were mentioning you weren't sure how long it would take to make back the extra.
Did you figure it out?
Yeah.
Did you do the math?
Yeah. I went on fueleconomy.gov and pulled
Okay.
up the Forester hybrid versus the all-wheel drive, and they've got the cost calculator that's built in there. It's when you do your comparison, when you compare multiple vehicles.
Okay.
So the difference, between the 29 miles per gallon of a regular Forester versus the hybrid at 35, over 5 years, you're going to save about $1,500. So, with that $5,000 price premium, you're going to it's going to take you about 15 years to make that back in fuel savings.
So that's a challenge with the hybrid. I mean, they do.
Well, not always.
Yeah.
Not always. Okay. Because I also pulled up the RAV4. So the all-wheel drive RAV4 gas is 28 miles per gallon.
Okay.
The RAV4 hybrid all-wheel drive is 39 miles per gallon. So that's a $2,500 cost difference. And the price premium is only $3,000. So basically, you're going to make back in fuel savings. You're going to make back the price premium in about 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
Assuming you drive about 15,000 miles a year.
So that's something worth considering.
Yeah.
So it's tempting to just look at that and immediately think, when you're like, oh, look at how much better the fuel economy is. But when you really have to crunch the numbers and compare it like you just did to see whether it's going to be worth it for you and how much you drive. The more you drive, the more the hybrid's worth it. The less you drive.
Well, and the thing is, Subaru, is partly owned by Toyota, and they partner on a lot of stuff, like on their EVs and things like that, and the BRZ GR86.
Mm-hmm.
And so Subaru is actually using Toyota's hybrid technology, they've reconfigured it because Subaru has a 4-cylinder boxer engine versus an inline 4, and it's mounted differently. So they've incorporated Toyota's hybrid technology into their transmission configuration, and clearly they have not done as much to optimize it as Toyota has done on the RAV4. Because the RAV4 is 11 miles per gallon better combined versus only 6 for the Subaru.
Right.
So Subaru's not getting everything they could out of the Toyota hybrid system. So, if what you want is fuel savings, the RAV4 is the way to go. I mean, that's way more efficient than the Subaru. If you like a Subaru, and everything that comes with that,
the Subaru-ness of it all. Yes.
You're going to pay a significantly bigger price premium for that hybrid on the Subaru and not get as much benefit from it. So,
right.
But
then there's other things, like I was talking about, like the standard all-wheel drive and a little bit of the off-road capability. Like there's more. That is why it's so complex to buy a car, because there's lots of things that you need to consider when it comes right down to it. It's not as easy as you think.
Well, let's see, the RAV4 hybrid LE, which is the cheapest version of the hybrid, with all-wheel drive, is 32, including destination, is $33,695.
Okay,
so it's like $1,300 cheaper than the starting price of the Forester.
Yeah. So would you get? What you're saying is you would get that one?
I would. I mean, if it was me, I would probably go with the RAV4.
What would you get, Robbie? Would you get a RAV4? We have Robbie. No sound. We can't hear Robbie. His lips are moving, but there's no sound.
Yeah, RAV4.
RAV4. So RAV4 wins. Sorry, Subaru. I still think it's a great car. And Subarus are just so stinking popular in New England. Everybody loves a Subaru. Like, how can you not love a Subaru?
Nothing wrong with that. I mean, if you like the Subaru, go for the Subaru.
Yeah.
It's just in this particular instance, it's probably not your best value proposition.
Probably not.
But a lot, I mean, Subarus generally are very good value. They're very competitively priced, and generally, I mean, the non-hybrid version of the Forester actually gets better fuel economy than the non-hybrid RAV4. But the RAV really benefits from that hybrid, whereas the Subaru really doesn't very much.
Yeah, not so much.
Yeah,
but still, there you go.
Subaru. Shall we take guesses on delivery charges for the Subaru?
Oh, I don't have delivery charges in front of me. Sugar. Wait.
$3.
Oh gosh, $3.
If you don't know, then it's $3.
Oh no! Oh no! I'm quickly. I got all the pricing and I forgot to write down delivery charge.
I have the Subaru website open. I haven't looked at that page yet, so I'm going to guess 1,200. Robbie,
okay.
Do you want to guess again?
So what did we have? 1,200 for Sam.
I'm gonna say 1,100.
1,100 for Robbie. Okay, give me a second, and I'll eventually let you know.
First
hybrid. Let's see how quick I can do it. Pricing. Wait. Press kits. Pricing. Wait.
1,420.
1,420.
Is destination and delivery.
Wow. So Sam, you win.
Yeah. Cool.
You're a winner. I thought they would have charged less because you have to pay for dog food when you buy a Subaru.
I mean, even this out because cool.
Dogs.
Well, wait. Doesn't Subaru bundle in like 500 pounds of dog food when you buy the car?
I know that isn't a standard feature of the Subaru.
They just assume that you have a dog, so they're going to throw you some dog food.
Yeah, I feel like
they should. They should.
I mean, it seems like a very reasonable assumption.
I mean, what kind of Subaru owner doesn't have a dog? That's a thing.
Well, maybe somebody's between dogs.
Okay, I'd accept that.
One. They haven't found the right new one yet.
That's a plausible explanation.
Okay. I mean, that seems like the only reasonable explanation for a Subaru owner not to own a dog.
Yeah, otherwise you're not allowed to buy one. I'm like, sorry, are you buying one within 6 months? Then you may have the car.
You have to bring your dog with you to the dealership in order to get approval.
Right. Everyone else is bringing like approval of their financing. It's like, yeah, that also includes proof of dog ownership.
Yeah.
You gotta show up with. If you don't have your dog with you, you have to have like the day before, the newspaper from the day before. You have to be standing in front of like the town clock, and then you have to have it
with your dog.
notarized, like a notary with like the little stamp. He was
Kind of like
holding
the
a piece of paper.
hostage video.
Yes, exactly, to
Yeah,
prove
like,
where you were.
this is my dog.
But the problem with that though is, I mean, you could just go, to the park or the town square, and grab somebody who's walking by with their dog and say, "Would you mind if I got my picture taken with your dog real quick?" So I mean, you could.
No, that's why you have the notary.
Oh, to prove that it is your
To
dog.
prove it's your dog.
That's
Or
why you
maybe
have the
maybe if
notary.
you bring your dog license from your local municipality.
That could
I
work.
mean, there's
I mean,
ways
you could
to
still
make
be
this happen.
yeah, there's ways.
There's probably
ways you
some
can-
law that's like, you better do this or you're in big trouble, mister.
So,
All right. Well, I have 2 dogs, so if anybody needs to borrow one for a couple of hours, to go buy a Subaru, I'll set you up.
you can accommodate.
Yes.
A healthy life starts with great sleep. Wake refreshed with Avocado's GOTS certified organic green mattress, delivering breathable, back-loving support, natural materials from Avocado's own sustainable wool and latex farms, easy financing, a 1-year sleep trial, and deep, restorative slumbers. Organic sleep awaits at avocadomattress.com.
Did you know you can support Wheel Bearings directly? Head to patreon.com/wheelbearingsmedia and you can become a patron today. Your contributions will help fund the platforms and tools we use to bring the podcast to you. And exclusives and improvements are already on the way thanks to your generosity. So if you want to be part of an automotive podcast like no other, head to patreon.com/wheelbearingsmedia. We've updated the Wheel Bearings merch store, and now there's a whole bunch of new choices, new colors, new styles, t-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, hats, mugs, travel mugs, stickers, aprons, tote bags, you name it. You can get your Wheel Bearings merch at shop.wheelbearings.media. Go check it out. That's shop.wheelbearings.media. Robbie, did you drive anything this week?
I drove a rental car. If anyone wants to hear about the 2025 Toyota Camry Hybrid, I got like 47 or 49 miles per gallon driving around Michigan all this past week. It was very comfortable. It's very smooth. There's still like a little weird stuttering with the vehicle that I feel like Toyota should have probably fixed by now. But other than that, it's a fantastic car. And when I got to the Hertz rental thing, it was like, oh, go to this area. They sent me to the Presidential Circle or Presidential Club, which is like, ooh. And I was looking
fancy.
for an electric vehicle because I had to do a video as well as there. I'm typically just flying around doing videos and talking to people about electrification, but they didn't have one. And so I was looking, I'm like, well, here, the Toyota Camry Hybrid, and then just a bunch of other stuff. And I'm like, well, come on, this is a no-brainer. And so that's what I got. What's funny is that the first one I got into, there was no key. And I was like, I put my stuff in the back and I got in the car and I'm like, and like all the workers were like at the end of the row. And I was like, looking, I'm like, well, there's no key. And I'm like, well, there's another one, like there's another Toyota Camry, like couple. And I got in that one, there's no key. And so finally I just like raised my hand like a child. I'm like, I can't find the key. And then I looked and it was in the windshield as opposed to the cup holder.
Oh, I've seen
It
them
was
do
up
it.
like,
Yep.
it was up in the windshield, which is like, I'm like, okay, I guess that's a place. So
That
look in the
works, but
windshield.
nobody looks there.
So if you're my big takeaway for the past week was the Toyota Camry is a solid hybrid sedan. You're going to save a lot of money driving that thing around. But also if you're renting a car, sometimes it's not in the cup holder, it's in the windshield. There you go.
Okay.
Let's see. Can I think of anything cool? Oh, it did have the wireless charging pad, but it's one of those ones that's like sitting high, like
And
in the
any motion of the car kind of knocks the
it's
phone
gonna
out of the way.
knock it out. Most of the time now, my wife got me a really nice case for my phone. So now it doesn't quite work as well with charging pads, but I just plug it in. My phone
case doesn't work with any charging pads.
Yeah.
Unless I take the case off, it's not going to work.
Yeah, I just plug it in because it charges. It's more efficient. My phone doesn't turn, doesn't get 700 degrees because it's really trying hard to charge.
Mine.
and I can just like shove it anywhere and it won't go sliding when I hit a bump or decide to take one. Michigan has 0 corners. There are 0 curves in Michigan. Every time I drive around, I'm like,
there are a handful on Hankered Road in Pinckney.
there are.
That is
That's what
like
it
the
tells me.
one.
There's one place.
There's this like
Exactly
one little
one.
section, in the Pinckney area, which is like northwest of Ann Arbor, and there's a couple of roads, Hankered Road, Unadilla Road, and that's where when they do the NACTOY drives and Car and Driver does some of their stuff, everybody who lives in this area, when they want to check out handling, they always drive up that way.
They go to that place. This is the
That's
place
the
to go.
spot.
This is the
That's
spot.
like the only spot. Yeah.
It-
And that's
it-
where
it-
I take my Miata and stuff
very
like that.
pretty.
Yeah.
But and then of course Michigan roads. I'm like, whoa, dodging holes the size of Miatas. I'm like, oh, poor Sam.
Yeah. Oh yeah. One thing I've noticed with Toyotas in particular is like with my phone, that it never wirelessly charges for it'll charge for a couple of minutes, and then even if the phone hasn't moved, it just stops charging for no apparent reason. I
like
don't
it's
know.
just a flat plane.
Yeah.
So I feel like any sort of movement, they need a little, and it's like slick almost. It's kind of a bad scene.
Well, what automakers need to start doing is putting in like the MagSafe style with put the magnet in there, so you can put your phone down, it stays in place, and that's part of the Qi 2 standard, and I'm sure at some point in the next 10 years, they'll start incorporating that into cars, but
That would be nice.
nobody has yet.
That would be nice because it is, your phone slides around. It slides around, but also just mine constantly overheats on the charging pads in cars.
Yeah,
it is a little bit
it does
older,
on
but
some, but not on others. So
yeah, that's a perpetual issue with me. I'm like, can it not? I'm like, oh, it's charging. I'm like, oh no, it's the temperature of the sun. It's not charging right now.
yeah.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes, and then sometimes if it's out in the sun, then you got that whole thing going.
Mhm.
Yeah. Other than that, no, good job, Toyota. I mean, that's why I picked it.
49 miles per gallon. You can't complain about that.
Yeah, I was just
Exactly.
it started at 45, and I was just watching it go up over the course of the time I was in Michigan. I ate Detroit pizza. There you go.
Detroit pizza, yum.
Excellent.
I'm gonna make a bold claim. I think Detroit pizza is better than Chicago pizza.
Yeah, I could go with that.
Bold claim. It's a bold claim. Is it?
I feel like you could, because the argument is that Detroit pizza isn't really even pizza, that it's really more of like a casserole, like a pie, because it's so.
No, that's Chicago pizza.
Chicago.
That's a lazy thing, because I was in Italy and I ordered pizza once, and they essentially just gave me Chicago pizza. So I don't want to hear that. If the Italians are like, yeah, this is pizza, then
it depends where
I've
you go.
always had really thin pizza in Italy, like super thin, crust, kind of a crispy crust.
Here you go. I'm like, oh, I want some pizza. They're like, here you go. And I'm like, all right. So I guess everyone getting angry about that. Don't stop. It's all pizza. All pizza is good pizza.
It's all good.
Except for
pizza,
Subaru.
be
Subaru's
happy.
horrible. And Costco gives me a tummy ache. These are important pizza.
Noted.
I have no car information.
How do you feel about Little Caesars?
I like Little Caesars.
The $5 grab and go, or what? I forget
It's a Detroit native, by the way. I
know.
I like Little Caesars pizza. By accident, we during lockdowns, someone just came to our door, and it was like 7 p.m., 8 p.m. at night, and all of a sudden, ding dong! We're like, what is going on? Who the hell is at our house? And I open the door, and there's just like a couple bags of Little Caesars, and I'm like, what the? And the person's all, and I'm all waving at them, and they're gone. I'm like,
stop.
all right.
Somebody DoorDashed and.
Yeah, so I bring it inside, and I call Little Caesars, and I'm like, hey, someone delivered all this pizza to our house. Do they want to come back? And she's like, oh, thank you so much for calling. Really appreciate it. Yet no one wants it if it's once you've touched it, essentially. The person was very nice about it. And very logical. Like, oh, we'll just send them a new pizza.
Once they walk away, they're like, it's your pizza now. Like,
yeah, it's my pizza. So I ate the pizza, and I liked it. It's not the greatest pizza, but it's in a pinch, it's way better than Pizza Hut or Domino's.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh God,
It's got, I mean, I haven't had a Little Caesars pizza in probably a decade. When our kids were younger, they used to love grabbing getting the $5, pizzas, from Little Caesars. And I mean, it was fairly tasty. It had, the sauce had, just enough spice to it that, made it interesting. It was better, definitely better than Domino's. And for $5, I mean, you can't really go wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it's good for like when it's warm. Just go get a small one.
Yeah.
You don't need something gigantic. And have a few. They have like little, like almost little muffins. I forget what they're called. I'm very tired right now. I don't think I was up for 24 hours yesterday, and I've gotten what time is 6 hours of sleep last night.
Oh my goodness.
So I'm a little loopy. So this is why we're talking about pizza. I ate a lot of pizza while I was in Michigan. I don't know why. Anyway,
all right.
Little Caesars support us. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was
Well, now on the occasions when we do get pizza, prefer to get, we don't have pizza very often, but when we do, we want to have really good stuff. So
we get very fancy pizza. Yeah.
Well, it's not fancy. It's just really good. I go out to a place in Dexter, Michigan, called Raderman's Bakehouse or Raderman's Bakery or something like that. And they do sourdough breads and stuff like that. And they make the most amazing pizzas with sourdough crust. Oh, it's so good. Their pepperoni and Calabrian pepper pizza is just amazing. It's fantastic. So if you are in the Dexter area, check out Raderman's. Get a loaf of bread, get a pizza, and you will not be sorry.
I got something called Thompson's, I think it was called.
Thompson and Company?
Maybe.
In Ypsilanti?
No, it was in some little town I was in. I don't even know what town I was in.
Some little town.
When I ended up getting 2 hotels while I was in Michigan, and my second hotel, when I showed up, they're like, "Yeah, we don't have a room for you."
Oh
so
no!
I had to find a room. What was the other place? Anyway, Thompson in a little town between Ypsilanti and Brooklyn.
Okay.
Or Ypsilanti and Jackson. So.
Okay.
I don't know. It was good. I drove by and there was a bunch of cars there, and I'm like, "Oh, that's where I'm getting dinner from."
All right. Anything else on the Camry Hybrid?
I feel like that's about it. Is that it? Is there more?
I don't think there's more. There's lots of room in the footwell for pizzas. Sorry.
All right. Well, I drove the 2025 Cadillac Lyriq Sport 3, which is the highest trim level, the highest level of the sport trim. And so the Lyriq, we've driven it before. I was actually scheduled to have a Mini Countryman SE, but the day before, when they picked it up from the previous person that had it, when they brought it back to the shop, they realized, this needs new tires. Means it was probably the car and driver guys that had it.
Oh, come on, guys.
So it had to go to the shop for new tires. And so they gave me another Lyriq. This is like the 3rd time I've had a Lyriq. But that's okay because I like the Lyriq. It's a really nice, mid-size, upper mid-size, luxury EV. And the one I had was in opulent blue metallic, which is it's a fantastic color.
Opulent blue metallic.
I love this color.
That sounds pretty. Now I'm going to look it up.
It is very opulent. And it had the juniper with sky cool gray interior. Basically, the Lyriq we talked about before, it's a 2-row SUV. It's got a pretty long wheelbase, and it's riding on the same platform that's used for the Blazer EV, the Honda Prologue, and the Acura ZDX. 515 horsepower, I think 550 foot-pounds of torque. It's plenty quick enough. Although it turns out there are quicker electric Cadillacs as well, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Actually, no, we won't talk about that one today. Because that's under embargo till Tuesday. We'll talk about that one next week. But it was just really enjoyable to drive. the software, unlike the very first time I drove the Lyriq almost 3 years ago now at the media launch in Park City, the software was rock solid, stable, didn't crash, didn't do anything weird. Everything worked. The Lyriq is the last GM EV that still has smartphone projection. So it's got an Android automotive based system with Google services, but you can also still use Apple CarPlay and Android Auto if you're so inclined. This one was riding on 22-inch wheels, which still gave surprisingly good ride quality, even given the minimal sidewall that's on these things. This does not have an air spring suspension or anything like that. One of the things I like on the Cadillacs for the wireless charger, it actually has a slot that you slide your phone in there, and it's got like rubber bumpers in there, so it holds it in place.
You just shove it in there and you're like, okay, I don't have to worry about this anymore.
Yeah, it's not going anywhere. It charges reliably, much more reliably than Toyota's. This one had cruise control or Super Cruise on it. It's got all the usual ADAS stuff and infotainment stuff. It was just really, really pleasant to drive. And it's fairly quick. It's rated at 303 miles of range for this particular variant with the 22-inch wheels. I didn't have a chance to do my usual driving loop with it. I did a lot of other driving with it. Averaged about 2.7 miles per kilowatt hour, which is not outstanding, but it's adequate. I also took it to my local supercharger station, here, and tried it out with the Lectron Vortex charging adapter that Lectron sent me a few weeks ago. And so GM EVs now have access to superchargers, although they don't have plug and charge built in. So I used it with the Lectron adapter, which you take that, you plug it into the CCS port on the car, and then you plug in the supercharger cable with a NACS connector on it into that, and then you have to use either the Tesla app or the GM, the OnStar app. They have branded ones for each brand. So there's my Chevrolet, my Cadillac, my GMC, etc. I didn't have the GM app set up for that particular vehicle, so I just used the Tesla app. Initiate the charging session. It worked. It was charging. It started at 40% state of charge, and it was charging it at that point at about 150 kilowatts. It will charge it up to 200 kilowatts if you're starting from a lower state of charge. So I was charging starting at about 150, and when it was at 70%, it was still going along at about 90 kilowatts, which is pretty good. The Lyriq that I had was also equipped with the optional 9.2 kilowatt charging module. So it comes standard with an 11 kilowatt charger, onboard AC charger. But there's an optional 19 kilowatt. So if you have a 100 amp circuit that you can use for charging, or an 80 amp if you're hardwired, you can charge at home at 19 kilowatts, which gives you pretty fast charging. Not generally really necessary for most people. It's a $1,480 option, and for the way most people drive, if you're generally not going to be doing a full charge every night. If you're doing 20 or 30% charge every night just to top it off, that 11 kilowatt charger is going to have you topped off in 2 or 3 hours easily. So
I have like 9 kilowatts, or I think from my charger at home, and the only time it hasn't charged filled up the entire vehicle overnight was when I had the Silverado EV.
Yeah,
that was
that's like over 200 kilowatt.
Yeah,
power.
It just could, yeah, and that way, and it got to like 80% or something from like 15% or something. I don't remember.
Yeah.
But it wasn't all the way done, and I was like apologizing to the person who picked up the car, and they're like, yeah, some people only give us like 20 miles of range, so you're good. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I also have a 9.6 kilowatt charger, and it's fine. I mean, almost everything, except for something like that, it will fully charge it overnight. So,
Yeah.
like I said, unless you are driving an insane number of miles and you don't have 8 hours overnight to charge it, you don't really need to spend the $1,500 on a 19 kilowatt charger. So all in, the total price on this one came to $80,485. You want to take guesses on the destination charge?
$1,400.
I'm gonna go $1,495.
Robbie gets it. He's off by
Dang it.
$5. It was $1,395.
I went the wrong way altogether.
Yeah.
Even in my I can't even use words. In my broken state, I win.
So yeah, I like the Lyriq. Now that the software is fixed and it works, it's a good luxury EV. And if you are, and GM is not giving away free adapters, unlike some other manufacturers.
Oh.
So if you are looking for an adapter to buy, and I'll put a link in the show notes to Lectron, where you can get the Vortex adapter for $185, which is a
nice.
really good price. It's normally $250.
Yeah.
So I'll have a link to the video that I did as well. But basically works really well. Had no issues with it. I put my hand on the charger on the adapter. It wasn't heating up at all. It just worked the way it was supposed to.
The way it's supposed to.
Didn't do anything weird.
Yeah.
But while I was there at the Meijer store where the superchargers are, I went in to grab something from the store, and as I was walking down the aisle, there's a photo that I dropped a link to in the chat. There was I think it was, if I recall, it was a Ford Escape with some do-it-yourself fixes to the exhaust system, with a bunch of bungee cords holding up the exhaust system, tying it to the trailer hitch.
I'm sure that's fine.
Yeah, what could go wrong, right?
What could go wrong?
Yeah, but bungee cords on hot exhaust pipes, it'll be fine.
It's not like heat melts like rubber.
No, not at all. All right. Let us move on. Let's see, Nicole stepped away for a second, so we'll come back to the Expedition. But Toyota's having a big event in Plano, Texas this week at their North American headquarters. And they're going to be showing us a whole bunch of stuff there. But in the week leading up to Toyota Headquarters Confidential, they have had a release pretty much every day this past week. And 3 of those releases, one, probably the most exciting one, was on Friday with a new shade of blue that they have on their TRD Pro trucks and SUVs. But since this is an audio podcast, we're not going to talk about a new color on TRD Pros. But they did announce 3 electric vehicles this week. One is a significant refresh, and the other 2 are new to Toyota. One is, we've more or less seen it before. So let's start with the 2026 Toyota BZ, formerly known as the BZ4X.
I'm happy they got rid of all the other letters and numbers in that name.
Yeah.
Easy. Well, that's an easy thing. It's busy.
At least in North America.
Well,
other parts of the world still call it BZ4X. For us, it's just BZ.
It just sounded like stereo equipment.
Yeah. It sounds like something you'd buy from Sony.
Yeah, exactly. Sony, the land of 1,000 SKUs.
Yeah. So the BZ4X gets the same upgrades that we already saw last month at the New York Auto Show for the Subaru Solterra. The gray cladding, fender cladding, is now body color. It's got what Toyota calls their hammerhead headlight signature that they started with the Prius, and they're now putting it on a whole bunch of other vehicles. Generally, I mean, I think it looks better.
Yeah, I don't.
I'd say so.
Why use the word hammer? Because we already have Thor's hammer for Volvo. So you could have, come on, something else.
Only one car company can use hammer. Is that
it just feels sort of,
like they stole it? How
not
dare they?
stole it. It's like everything. One company does midnight. Now everyone has a midnight.
A midnight edition.
Most companies aren't that innovative.
You think they're all creative, but
there's a lot of copying, and this is just not just automotive; it's everywhere. There's a lot of copying. Like one company does it, and then they all have to do it. It was like, guys, come on.
And there's besides the visual changes, there's a whole bunch of functional changes too that finally make this vehicle a lot more competitive than it was, because
proper modern EV.
It always felt like kind of a half-assed attempt at an EV up until now.
It did.
And so now it's got a slightly larger 74.7 kilowatt hour battery, but new motors that are much more efficient, and up to 338 horsepower for the all-wheel drive model. The range is improved. So now with the front wheel drive models, you get 314 miles of range.
Not bad.
Significant increase over the 252 it had before. Charges a lot faster, which that was one of the big complaints about the old one, is it didn't have much range and it was slow to charge.
Yeah.
So now it charges a lot faster. It's got plug and charge capability. And it's got a NACS charging port standard on there. So even though Ford was the first to announce their adoption of NACS, they still don't sell anything with a NACS port in it.
Which is kind of funny when you think about it. Like, we're first, but not really.
Oh, it is Ford.
Yeah. But we're not talking about Ford right now.
No. No Ford.
So Toyota seems to be getting with the program here. They've got a new 14-inch touchscreen for the infotainment system with the Toyota multimedia system on there, which is I think a pretty good, for an OEM, it's a pretty good infotainment system, which also has support for CarPlay and Android Auto. And they got rid of the instrument cluster down the little tunnel, and now it's got a little bit bigger screen for the instrument cluster, and I think they still have the round steering wheel. So unlike I think the Subaru Solterra went with a more squared off.
It did. It squished it so you could see down the tunnel. But...
Right. Well, so now the tunnel's gone. So we'll have to wait and see. Hopefully next week we'll see, if this still cuts off the cluster display, but it certainly looks better than before.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to cut it off. I bet they changed it. The way they changed it was, instead of the steering wheel, we're going to change the rest of it. Like Subaru's like, we'll change the wheel. Toyota's like, nope, we're going to change the display.
Well, Subaru also changed the display. I mean, they've got the same kind of display in theirs in the Solterra as well.
That's true.
Yeah. So now, charges a lot faster than before. I think it goes from 20 to 80% in about 30 minutes, whereas before that was about an hour. So much better charging curve. So yeah, I mean the BZ finally, we'll see it'll be interesting to see what they do with pricing, because they dropped the pricing on the BZ last year for the 2025 models. It'll be interesting to see if they maintain those prices or if they crank it back up again.
Do you think they'll crank it back up? Do you think they will?
I think eventually they're going to have to, because of tariffs, because this thing is made in Japan.
Oh, right. Yeah, I didn't think of that.
Yeah. But we'll see. I mean, this is coming out in the fall, and we'll see how it does. Because I think they dropped the base price down, down to 37,000 last year. So it's quite a bit cheaper than it was when it first came out. And then they also announced the Toyota Trail Seeker. No, the Toyota BZ Woodland, which is basically the Trail Seeker, but with the front fascia and headlights that are on the Toyota BZ. So basically stretching the roof line and the back end of the BZ to make it more like a wagon. And that's a good thing. And it's up to, that one's standard all-wheel drive with 375 horsepower, but only 260 miles of range because it's a little bigger and heavier and significantly more powerful.
I mean, I guess that's good. Like, let's. I'm anxious to see these in person to see what they really look like, and to eventually give them a drive. I want to see it. Like, it all looks. Sometimes things look so good on paper, and then you're like, when you actually start driving.
Well, I mean, we saw the Trail Seeker and the Solterra in New York.
Yeah,
and the only real difference here is the headlights.
Yeah, a small change.
Yeah. So I think the Woodland is looks pretty sharp. Arguably, I think this is more like this probably should have been the new Outback for Subaru. This is more of what the Outback traditionally has been than the new Outback is, which has become more of an SUV.
So you would have liked to have seen this be the Outback or look like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or call it an Outback EV.
Outback EV. That would work. Okay, that one picture you have on there is the strangest picture. It completely threw me. It's just the chassis with
you had stepped away.
It's in motion. What is happening there?
wait a minute. Which one are you talking about?
I'm looking at the BZ Woodland.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, what is this? What is that weird picture?
Yeah, that's the let's see, where'd that one go now?
It's like they have one image that's like they have, there's the car, and it's like everything's in motion except they move the body. So it looks like it's something from a cartoon where like somehow the bottom part of the car has gone one way and the top part has been left behind.
Yeah, it's the battery pack and the motors and the wheels from the BZ Woodland.
Looking.
Yeah. Just driving down the trail.
Just driving down with nobody in it, no steering wheel, nothing, just cruising along.
It's the minimal version of the BZ Woodland.
The base version.
All right, and then the third EV that was announced by Toyota this week. It's amazing to have 3 Toyota EV announcements in 1 week. Is the new CHR, which the CHR is back and it's electric now. It's based on the same platform as the BZ and the BZ Woodland and Trail Seeker and Solterra. It's 330. I think it's the same 338 horsepower as the all-wheel drive BZ, and it's shorter. It's about 6 or 7 inches shorter than the BZ, but it's also 6 inches longer than the old CHR. So it's got kind of the same, small, compact, coupe-like styling of the CHR, kind of updated, and it's about 6 inches longer than the old one. But it's got the same battery, the same motors and everything as the BZ. So if it's basically a sportier take, I think, on what the BZ is.
I actually like how this looks. I wasn't so much a fan of the old one, but I like how this one looks.
Yeah, it's not bad.
There's something about this, and I'm trying to figure out which one it is. It reminds me of is it Buick Envista? It reminds me of a Buick from the front, one of the Buicks. I'm trying to figure out which one it is as I'm like going to Buick, but I'm thinking of Buick as I'm looking at this.
Yeah, it does have kind of the Buick look.
Yeah, something, which isn't a bad thing. It is. It makes me think of the Envista. I just pulled that up. I'm like, is that what I'm thinking of? Of course, the Envista has like a grill, but if you just made that grill a piece of metal on the Envista, they look a lot alike. They remind me of each other, the shape of these.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. And of course, it's got the Toyota Hammerhead lights on it, like all
Hammerhead.
Hammerhead.
Yeah. All right. Any other thoughts on the CHR?
No, I think it looks good. I'm happy it looks better than the old one.
We should see it in person this week when we're in Plano.
Toyota Thon.
Yeah.
No, it's Toyota Palooza. I prefer
Toyota
Toyota
Palooza.
Palooza. Yes.
All right. Nicole.
Yes.
You also went to Kentucky last week, week before?
Last week. Yes. Week before.
I don't know. Whenever.
Week before. Sorry.
At some point in the recent past, you went to Kentucky.
Recent past. Yes. I was in Kentucky to do two things. To tour the Ford plant in Kentucky, their Ford truck plant, and also to drive the 26 Ford Expedition. So we toured the plant, which is pretty cool. I love plant tours. I just think they're neat. I guess you kind of really have to be a geek to think that they're like you either are bored out of your mind, like look at the machines go. I'm the later. I'm like, whoa, pieces of cars flying overhead. And so the tour of the factory was really cool. I'm amused like a 12-year-old every time they let us inside of one. So we got to do that. And then,
hold on, before you go on, I want to ask you, because this week you and I were also in Savannah, Georgia, where we toured Hyundai's Meta plant.
Can we talk? Yeah, we can talk about.
I think we can talk about the factory. We can't talk about the car,
the vehicle. Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah, because we could share photos live of the factory. And
right.
Stuff.
So, how this is Hyundai's new factory outside of Savannah, where they're building the Ioniq 5 and Ioniq 9, and soon other stuff.
Yeah,
they're going to build stuff for all three brands, for Kia and Genesis as well. And how would you compare the Louisville plant where the Tremor or where the Expedition and Navigator are built to the Hyundai factory?
Okay, they don't even feel like they're both in the same industry. Like it doesn't even feel like both of these places are making cars. You're like, I don't know what Ford is making, but Ford's feels, I don't mean old like it's falling apart, but I mean it feels old school. You walk into the Hyundai factory like, wow. Like if I had to work in a factory, I'd be like, that would be the one. I'm gonna move to Savannah. I'm gonna work in that factory. First of all, it's gigantic. It's on almost 3,000 acres. I think it was like 2,900 and change. It's huge. It is bright and airy and beautiful. And inside it's fully air conditioned, and it just feels comfortable. The employees have little uniforms they wear, like little, branded, whatever, Hyundai shirts. And truly, it seemed like such a nice place to work. I mean, you can argue that working in a factory is good or bad, but if you had to pick between the two, I would pick the Hyundai factory in a heartbeat. And the people seemed happier. Like when you were walking around the Hyundai plant or driving, we were in little trams, like they take you to your car, like at an amusement park, in these little trams that they were touring us through in. And when you caught the eye of the folks in the Hyundai plant, they gave you like a little nod or sometimes a little smile. Some of the people were waving. They by and large seemed like they were pretty content with their jobs. Whereas the people in the Ford plant looked like they were not as pleased with their jobs. Let's put it that way. They were not as pleased. They were not as pleased. So what did you think, Sam, when the difference between the two?
Well, I didn't go to Louisville. I didn't do the
you didn't do the Ford one. So what did you think of the Hyundai plant then?
I was amazed. I was really impressed. Like you said, I mean, especially in the assembly building, there's these huge skylights. So there's tons of natural light in there. Yeah. But also when we went through the body shop where they stamp out the body panels.
Oh, that was so cool.
If you've ever been in a body shop before, which
it's
often
loud.
They don't take you in there, it's really, really loud.
It's like, that's why you're not in there, because it's so loud. You're just going to be hearing heavy duty machinery, and you need genuine, not like earplugs,
real ear protection,
real ear protection. Like you'd find like guys who wear them at the airport when they're loading your plane, that kind of stuff. You needed nothing here. You heard it going ka-thunk, ka-thunk, but it was not, it was so quiet for a stamping facility. It was incredible.
Yeah. And so, the stamping presses in the Hyundai factory are basically all enclosed in their own room, and it's pretty highly automated in there. So you've got the workers, they load and unload the dies for the different panels that they're making. But other than that, most of the rest of the process is pretty much automated. And so it's all enclosed. So when you go by, like you said, you just hear this kind of thump, thump, thump,
mm-hmm.
but there's no real noise as such, which makes it a much more pleasant working environment. And then of course, when we went past the welding area, there was, a body in white sitting there on a cart, and they had a spot, a Boston Robotics spot walking around examining it, checking the welds, doing quality control to verify the welds. And they said they've got 2 of those that they're using right now.
Yes.
And
They
they'll
have
probably add
2.
more.
Yeah, they said they have 2 spots that we're doing inspections. And then I just forgot the name. There's also one that looks
Atlas.
more human, Atlas. He said they're going to be getting one Atlas supposedly at some point, but they don't have the Atlas just yet. But it was neat. It was neat to see it. And they even have so they did like really cool things. Like the brake areas are in the middle of the assembly area, which you would think would be horrible, but they're not. They're in these like little, like they look almost like a little open meeting room, and they have these nice tables and again the skylights, and they've just working in a factory isn't going to be the easiest job you ever had. Like it's not it's a tough job, and they make it such a pleasant environment for their employees, and it feels super high tech too with all of they have, aside from the Boston Dynamics stuff, they have little platforms that carry the vehicles and stuff around the floor. They look like they're just hovering around the floor with parts, and it's like a little dance of vehicles just wee all over, going from part A to part B. It's kind
automated guided vehicles. Yeah.
Okay, automated guided vehicles, little platforms. They take the cars everywhere. Automated guided vehicles. They look neat. Like there's no big, huge equipment. There's no one's doing. It's just like this little blue rectangle, essentially, or square that just like zooms them all over the place. So it feels very, very high tech, very, very pleasant, very, very welcoming, and entirely different than what traditional factories feel like.
Yeah, the Kentucky truck plant was built in 1969, and it's obviously been updated over the years, but it's a pretty old factory.
Which is like, and that's part of why the Hyundai plant feels so good. What has it been open for a month or something? It's really just open.
They started building Ioniq 5s in September.
Okay, but started building in September, so it hasn't been very long. So it's new. So they've been able to incorporate. There's never been old technology that needed to be updated, old ideas about what a factory should be that need to be updated. It's only ever been this. So, in 30 years, it might look a little different when you look at the Hyundai plant. Right now, you can see, I guess it's not that the Ford plant looked bad. It was just of an era that they've tried to update, where the Hyundai plant is where everything is going, I think, going forward. And it's pretty neat. It was really neat.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Tell us about driving the Expedition.
So the Expedition, great big SUV. But it's fine. It's fun to drive. I enjoyed it. But what they really let us do that was super fun is we had the Tremor, which is their new off-road trim of the Expedition. They have Tremors in other stuff like the F-150 and the Bronco, and I think their whole heavy-duty truck line, but I think even the Maverick, Ranger. So you've got lots of Tremor options. Basically what Tremor does is it lets you have a little more fun. And they took us off-road in this. And the thing was, it rained. I don't mean it rained. I mean, like the skies opened and it was time to build an ark. Like it dumped. So the off-road trail, we still drove it. To Ford's credit, it wasn't, oh, guys, we can't really have you drive this now. We're going to have you do this other thing. Like, nope, we're going to drive it again. Guys, it's really slick. Know that it's going to take a second if you slide in the mud. Don't panic. Because no matter how capable a vehicle, when you put a lot of weight on something that's really slick, it wants to slide in the direction the gravity takes you. So there were a couple moments.
Damn that gravity.
I know, right? There were a couple moments where it's like you've stopped and you're a little bit on the side and you're like, oh, I'm just sliding right. Okay, well, let's see how close we get to that tray, So, but it was, in terms of handling, though, it did really well. I mean, that is not a light vehicle. You're driving on a very, very slick, wet, muddy surfaces. It was fantastic. It was very fun to drive. I don't think it's the kind of thing, you're not rock crawling with this. That's not why you buy this. But if you're a more adventurous family, you either want to go do a little bit of off-roading, or you just are someone who you want to be able to pull up right to, drive through the woods to the favorite spot to put your canoe in the river, or to a cabin, or mountain biking, or what have you. It's a great choice, because then on the flip side, it is an incredibly comfy, easy to drive, roomy vehicle for a whole family, up to 7 seating, 7 passengers, 6 if you go with the captain's chairs. So overall, I was really impressed with it. It had plenty of power. It's got great style, and it's big. The challenge with but you get into a real true full-size SUV that seats, has 3 rows, is going to be big. You're going to have something big. It's good, unless The only time they ever don't feel big is if they're just too darn small in that third row. If the third row is enough that Robbie would feel like he was contorted like a pretzel, then it doesn't feel so big. But then you've got an almost not usable third row. This, Robbie could sit in this, and I think he would have been okay. That would be my guess. So
That's the bare minimum. I think I'll be okay.
I think he'll be okay. I don't think he'll die. I think he'll be okay. No guarantees. Like somewhere in there's an expedition. Robbie, I'll just throw you back there and see what happens. I'll immediately yank you back out if you look like you're going to die.
No.
No, he's dying. Save him. So yeah, and something else I got to try, we played around with quite a bit, was the Blue Cruise, which is 1.4, which is the latest version of Blue Cruise. It's also on the Navigator, so it's not like this is the debut of, but it just got Blue Cruise, and we had a lot of highway driving on this program, to and fro from the off-road course and back again, and also the day before, and it was pretty good. I really, really played around with it. And another colleague, we wrote a story for Top Speed about it that was like both of our impressions of what it was like. So it's kind of neat to get two different people on the same roads, more or less the same driving conditions. I think he had a little bit more rain than I did. And he was saying it managed, even during the rain, it was really good at managing doing what Blue Cruise is supposed to do, which is let you drive hands-free. The only spot I ran into trouble was, interestingly, this section of highway, they were doing construction and they kept taking you down to one lane and then back to two, and then down to one lane and back to two. And to differentiate that, it wasn't Jersey barriers. They had the big orange barrels they use for construction. I don't think my Blue Cruise liked the barrels. It was, and it could be, I wonder if it's because like that's not a robot that puts the barrels, it's a human. So they're, even though they're sort of in a straight line, they're sort of not, there's a little bit of variety between, they're not all perfectly lined up. So I could feel it kind of doing this like, whoa, sort of back and forth just a little bit, because I think it wasn't entirely sure. It never disengaged. It thought it had it, but I was nervous enough that I took the wheel back because I didn't feel comfortable.
Okay. Yeah, that's were there times, when you were on normal stretches of highway, where it was disengaging when you felt maybe it shouldn't be?
No, actually, I felt like it did pretty well. The only times it disengaged were spots where I looked at it and I thought, yep, I get you. It disengaged when, in some of the construction areas, if you were going by an exit ramp and suddenly you've got the exit coming in and you have, the lines aren't perfect because you sort of have the originally painted lines from the road and the sort of haphazardly painted lines from the construction. Then you can sort of see two sets of lines. It's almost like a shadow of what was, and then the ones they painted on, which makes it a little confusing. A couple spots in there, it asked me to take over. I'm trying to think if there was ever a time when it asked me to take over and I had no idea. I feel like every time it did, it was reasonable. I'm like, yep, I see why you're a little uncertain, and it made sense to me.
Okay. Because I know, when we drove the Navigator out in California, that also had Blue Cruise 1.4. And, I was having issues with that one randomly disengaging in places where it really shouldn't have been.
Well, I had that happen too. I had spots in the Navigator. I had a couple spots where I sort of looked and I thought, I don't get it. This is just highway. It's like nothing seemed obvious for why it would disengage. I did not experience that driving the Expedition. And I did ask them, the one engineer, I said, is there, like, I know it's Blue Cruise 1.4 and Ford and Lincoln are the same, company. It's all the same tech. I said, how different is it? And he said, essentially it should perform the same. But there are, of course, slight calibration differences because of the actual, the way the body of the car is. You got to position cameras and things slightly different. Things need to be tweaked a little bit to perform right. But they should have the same parameters and basically are the same. So it shouldn't have felt different. So I wonder, Sam, if it was something about the roads or the light or something. I don't know. I don't know what it is.
That's the impression I got from talking to the Ford people after the Navigator drive, was that there were issues with the particular roads that we were on, with the way they were marked, because I was having issues like driving in the HOV lane. And that's where it was getting confused. So perhaps, the different, I think that the different roads will make a difference. So.
And that's something with any hands-free technology is going to happen. The roads will make a difference. The light will make a difference. The weather will make a difference. All of that makes a difference. So that's why it's, hands-free, but pay attention. Don't take a nap.
Yep.
Don't read a
Supervised.
book. Yes, supervise, because you never know when it's going to say, I can't drive this well enough. I can't discern exactly where the edges of the road are. I need you to take over. It's never, I think it's important to note, it's never one of those things like, I'm not driving, take over. It always does this, like, take the wheel. It's never a panicky thing. It's just like, no, you need to take the wheel. It doesn't immediately disengage and you're like, but you do need to be paying attention. You can't be distracted. You have to be ready to take over.
Going back to the off-road portion, did you get a chance to use the trail turn assist, which is new on Expedition for this year?
I did not use the trail turn assist on the Expedition. There wasn't, I guess there may have been, there really wasn't something tight enough where I think we needed that. I didn't use it. I have used it on other Ford vehicles, and I think it's brilliant. Because it really does let you, essentially what it feels like to you is that instead of taking, say, a right-hand turn, that you're just kind of pivoting on that rear wheel. So it makes this, and in a big vehicle, it's kind of nice, when you have tight quarters. So I did not get a chance to try that, but I have experienced it. I'm a huge fan of that feature. I think it's really cool.
Yeah. So trail turn assist for the listeners, when you turn that on, when you're using that, when you turn the steering wheel all the way to lock in either direction, it applies full brake on the inside rear wheel and basically locks up the inside rear wheel. So as you're turning, it basically drags around that wheel and turns a lot tighter than it normally would, which can be very handy. And especially on something as big as the Expedition, it seems like it would be very helpful in some of those off-road conditions.
Yeah, even if you're not doing like hardcore off-roading, like in something like a Bronco or something like that, where you're in the thick of it, right? It's even more valuable, but because you're probably in more technical situations. But the nice thing about having it on something big like an Expedition, it's more likely to pose a challenge when the road isn't so technical because it's just so big. And if you have a tight spot that, say, a Bronco would just go whoop right through, you need a little bit of help to get through that and make that turn. In the Expedition, it'll let you do that. So it's pretty cool.
Okay. Any other thoughts on Expedition?
No, I think that's my Expedition thoughts.
Okay. I do have one other question for you.
Okay.
One thing, I know on the Expedition, they have adopted a similar type of display. They're actually using half of the display from the Navigator. So the Navigator is actually, it's 48-inch wide display. And it's, two 24-inch displays side by side. And the Expedition is just the left-hand side of that. How did that work out? Did you miss having the right-hand side of the display with the big widgets on there?
The widgets are cool, but I still maintain that the widgets are just cool. It's not necessary. It's a nice little bit of fluff. It's kind of like for, you have heated and ventilated seats in a car.
I'm sure the Lincoln designers really appreciate that.
I don't mean it's not important, but it's like, okay, so in a car you have heated and ventilated seats. Are they cool? Yeah, but are you saying like, oh, my car is awful because it doesn't have heated and ventilated seats? No, it's cool to have, but it's kind of fluff. Like, it's something you don't necessarily have to have. I kind of feel the same way. Like, it's nice to have those widgets. They definitely enhance the experience, but I don't feel like it's one of those things, at least for me, that I'm thinking, oh my God, I really, really miss this. I wish I had those widgets on the side. So,
all right. Well, I also got a chance to try out a very big off-road vehicle. Didn't actually get to drive it. We got to ride along with some engineers from GM in the 2026 Hummer EV. So for 2026, the Hummer EV, this is fourth model year, fourth.
I think
It's not actually getting any new hardware. But they're taking advantage of the software-defined capability of the vehicle to add some new features to it. And some of those features are actually going to be rolled out to existing Hummer owners. So the two big standout things that they have changed for 2026 are the pickup, the 3-motor pickup, the Hummer EV 3X gets to be even quicker off the line because, a 9,000 pound, 9,200 pound pickup truck, electric pickup truck that goes 0 to 60 in 3 seconds is just not fast enough.
No, slow,
So,
awful. Blech.
yeah. So now they have done a bunch of software changes that give it an extra knock an extra 0.2 of a second off the 0 to 60 time. So now it's 2.8 seconds from 0 to 60 in the pickup. And the way they did this was they made changes to the way they're controlling the inverter, the power electronics, so that they get better control there over the motors, and they can control them a little more precisely, and also factored that into the traction control. And then they also made changes to the way they control the adaptive dampers. So the dampers are the same ones that have been on there since it launched in 2022, but the software that controls it now has greater precision. It can make smaller adjustments to the dampers, and so what that allows them to do, the combination of those greater precision on the motor control and the wheels and the dampers. With the dampers, it does a better job of controlling the body motion so that basically it keeps the weight on the wheels. So it does less unloading of the front wheels so they can do more work. And then, the tighter control of the motors and the traction control allows them to keep it right on the peak of the traction curve, the mu slip curve for the tires. So it can use more of the capability that's there. So that got them an extra 0.2 of a second. And as we were going down the north-south straightaway in this Hummer with 4 of us in the vehicle, was looking over at the G meter in the cluster, and it was pulling at its peak about 0.98 Gs. So just shy of 1 G of acceleration in a 9,200 pound pickup, which is just bonkers.
Which is why, and why? For years I keep saying why. I'm a broken record. Vehicles this large don't need to be this quick. There's literally no reason for it.
Nope, you're absolutely right.
It's just so much mass flying down the road, and it's why. There is
no logical reason for it.
Yeah, it goes big, giant, scary truck goes fast. Isn't a thing that the world really needs.
But it really pins you back in your seat. And
sure, I guess.
And now it's a little closer to what a Cybertruck could do, which I think is about 2.6 0 to 60, something like that.
Yeah.
So it's absurd. It's ridiculous.
I don't know. I don't understand.
So the enhanced acceleration will only be available on the truck with the 24 module battery. So that's the big battery, because you need the full current and voltage of that bigger battery. The smaller 20 module battery pack has a little bit less current and voltage. So it takes a whole 3.5 seconds 0 to 60. So it's not getting the acceleration enhancements, just the big one. And the SUV, because it's shorter wheelbase, can't fit that bigger battery, so it doesn't get any extra acceleration.
And the SUV is the better vehicle, to be honest. Yeah. The truck ride's not great. It is not great at all. And when you accelerate,
it is better now because of the changes they did to the damping control. It does ride better than before.
All right, because it was just a big sloshy,
big sloshy thing.
It's just like it's just flopping around on top of this, and you would accelerate, and the front end would lift up. So you're doing like a Carolina squat, like down the road at 3 seconds, with a 0 to 60 in 3 seconds. I'm like, well, this doesn't seem. I mean, it wasn't great in the first place, and now I can't see where I'm going.
It still squats a bit, because physics. You've got that much. Your center of gravity is up that high, and you're accelerating that fast. You're going to get some squat, but it's less than it was before. The body control is definitely a lot better than before. It doesn't flop around nearly as much. Yeah. The other change that all Hummer owners are going to get is the King Crab mode. So, if you
Alaskan king crab, because that's the deadliest catch. Sorry.
might be.
Sorry,
Um,
I'm sorry, everybody.
so if you've driven any of the previous Hummers, the center control knob for the modes, the drive modes, um, the button on the right hand side of that control knob was the mystery mode button. It did not have a function previously. Now, because they put it there because they were they wanted to develop other stuff and add that functionality to it. So now it has a function, which is the king crab mode, and on the 26 models, it'll have a new icon on there to indicate the king crab mode. So crab mode, as we know it already, is turning all four wheels in the same direction at low speeds for off-road maneuvering, to kind of almost go sideways with the truck. The king crab mode is something completely different, which what that does when you engage that in any of the other modes, it changes the effective steering ratio on the rear wheels. So they don't actually steer any farther. They're still limited to 10 degrees of steering on the rear wheels. But what it does is it turns the rear wheels a lot faster. So it used to be in normal driving mode. Oh, it still is in normal driving mode. For every 1 degree of front steering angle, you got 0.3 degrees of rear steering angle in the opposite direction. In off-road mode, for every 1 degree, you got 0.6 degrees. So it would steer a little bit faster. In terrain mode, it would be 1 degree to 1.2 degrees. So it'd steer even faster. And the king crab mode steers them at 2 degrees on the rear for every 1 degree of front steering angle, up to that 10 degree limit. And so what happens is the rear end becomes way more responsive. And if you put it in king crab mode and you're just driving along slowly and you just turn the steering wheel, you can feel the back end moving around a lot more than you do in the normal driving modes. And so what they did that so that when you're off-roading in tight confines, it now maneuvers a lot better in small areas. When you're going at low speeds, you get much more maneuverability in those kinds of conditions, and you can really feel the difference in going around really tight curves on off-road trails compared to even the terrain mode before.
I mean, I'm a big fan of rear wheel steering in giant vehicles, so this is good. Good, going faster, not good. That's
and for a truck that's 87 inches wide, that extra maneuverability it comes in very handy.
Yeah, it was really, I had again, I like the SUV way more than the truck. And yeah, being able to just kind of like park it.
Yeah.
It's nice. Especially after I had the Silverado EV without the rear wheel steering. I was like, oh man.
All right. So those are the changes to the 2026 Hummer. And then Autopian had a good comment of the day section the other day after this came out. With the headline, America, where trucks accelerate faster than Corvettes are legal, but tiny imports are not. And that 2.8 seconds 0 to 60 for the Hummer, that is slightly faster than the base Corvette Stingray. So yeah, that's kind of nuts. But one of the commenters said, in response to this, and some people worry about K cars being dangerous to others.
I think there is, I have a few friends who are like, well, because I want to get a little K. I want to get a little K van because it's perfect for around town. You can put the dogs in the back. It's great. It's a great car, tons of room, and in a very small footprint. And they're like, well, they're not very safe. I'm like, well, yeah, but every car from the 80s is not very safe when you really think about it. And also, I ride motorcycles, and they're not very safe, mostly because of other things on the road.
Things like, Hummers and Expeditions.
Which and I'm seeing more Hummers up here in Northern California, EVs, than over the past few months. They're at some point, like one person got it, now another person's getting it, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm not as many as I see of the VinFasts, but I'm seeing more of them, which is a weird thing to say.
I like this comment from an Autopian reader. We have to keep these unhinged K cars off the road so the real patriots can drive their 4 to 5 ton behemoths without the stress of running over one of those selfish toys.
I know. How dare these people? Their tiny little cars, their tiny
Yeah.
little motorcycle engines. Oh, speaking of motorcycle engines, I went to the Formula SAE thing this weekend. That's why I was in Michigan. That was one of the reasons why I was in Michigan. And it was fantastic. All these kids building these little Formula vehicles at different colleges and universities. They have teams and they have to build essentially a little Formula car. And then they have to do they have autocross. They have to do all these technical inspections. They have to there's an endurance thing. There's not the circle thing. So my skid pad, thank you. There's the circle thing. The skid pad, they have acceleration, and it was very exciting. They had designs where they checked the design. It was very exciting. So if you're like a college student or like a high school student, or if you know one of those folks, you should, and they're into engineering, and they don't even have to be engineers. They could be someone who wants to do I want to call somebody, or maybe they're just a really good driver.
Yeah, well, and that's one of the cool things about Formula SAE. I did it when I was in college, and we, me and another guy worked on. We did an independent study project for a semester, building up an engine. We had an old 600cc Honda motorcycle engine.
The CBR, that's what.
It was a CBR engine. Somebody had spun the cam bearings on there, and so the camshaft was messed up. So we found somebody at GM that could repair that cylinder head for us and weld up the aluminum journals there for the bearings, and then machine that again. And then we took that and we fabricated an intake plenum, turbocharged it, and got that thing up and running on the dyno. And so that, but it's not just for engineers, like you said, because there's a whole bunch of stuff that has to happen. It's like any other race team. There's a lot of people who are non-engineers that, are involved with race teams with finding sponsors, with doing a lot of the administrative stuff. So like, if you're, in a business program or communications, and as part of the competition, you have to present a whole bunch of, your work and prepare the documentation and everything. So there's opportunities for people with a lot of different skill sets to use what they're learning, as part of this team. So if your school has a Formula SAE program, consider getting involved.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to go to an event, and it was way bigger than I anticipated. And and I've talked to a couple teams, and I've talked to people who've sort of aged out of it, and people who are in it, and they absolutely, or people who did it when in college, and I have not heard a bad word from anyone who's ever done it. I haven't like, oh, I didn't learn anything. It was all very much like, this was the coolest thing I did in college. So it was pretty cool, like actually to see it in action. So if you know like so this year they also have a Formula. They have an EV version. They have Baja. So they're like doing little Baja bikes. So there's a lot. There's Aero. There's a lot of stuff.
I don't know if they still do it. There was for a while they were doing. I can't remember what it was called, but basically snowmobiles. Doing it with snowmobiles, building electric snowmobiles. There's a bunch of different types of programs that they do.
Yeah. So yeah, it was really cool. It was really fun. If you're, they're always, I guess all these kids are always looking for, like you were saying, sponsors. They were talking about how like that's like the hardest job is finding sponsors. Because you have to give hey, can you give us a bunch of money so we can put a sticker on our car? But you feel good about it at the end of the day. But yeah, if you're a college student or a high school student, or if you happen to know one, if you're a parent or or an aunt or an uncle or whatever, I think you can go to fsaeonline.com. So yeah, that's what I did last weekend. And yeah, no, it was really eye opening, because I've seen it and I've talked to people, but I haven't actually been to one of the events, and it was fantastic. It was just really fun to sort of watch and see these teams get super excited. I mean, just finishing everything, just passing inspection is incredibly difficult, and then you finish the last thing. The last thing is endurance, which it's I think you drive like 14 miles or something. You have 2 drivers, each of them does 5 laps, and just finishing it, people are just like, oh, we're done. We did it. We passed all the things, and you get to endurance and like, we finished it. And that's got to be an incredible feeling. And even if you didn't get to that, the fact that you built a car that people can drive that just boggles my mind. That we have students who are just building cars. I built like a little table once in the backyard for my wife, and it like fell over. So that's the the greatest thing I've ever built is the catio that we have for our cats.
Ooh.
I don't know. I mean, your Daft
pointed
Punk helmets are pretty cool.
Yeah, they get credit for those.
Yeah, those are cool. It's all the sort of, but you can't drive them. So there we go.
That's
so the
true.
greatest things I've ever built are the catio and the Daft Punk helmets.
All right.
Anyway, I don't know why did we? Oh, motorcycles. That's how it popped up, because the CBR they use a lot of CBR 600 motors for these vehicles.
All right. So on Thursday, while I was sitting in Savannah Airport waiting for my flight home, I was sitting there with Jeff Gilbert and Gary Witzenberg and Paul Waddy, and our plane pulled up to the gate, and the passengers from Detroit were getting off, and I happened to be facing in the direction of the gate. And who do I see walking off the plane but Antonio Filosa?
Really?
Yeah. So for those not familiar, Antonio Filosa, for the past year or so has been COO of Stellantis North America. So basically he's been responsible for all of North America for Stellantis. And prior to that, he was appointed head of Jeep. And more recently, since like November, December, when Carlos Tavares was shown the door, he's been part of the executive committee along with John Elkann and somebody else that's been running Stellantis while they wait for a new CEO. So he walked off the plane in Savannah. I don't know if he's a golfer. Maybe he was just heading to Hilton Head for the weekend to play some golf.
Because it was Thursday, right? This would have been
Thursday afternoon. Yeah.
Okay.
So maybe he was going to Hilton Head to play golf. Maybe he was going to visit a nearby factory and see what they're doing there. See if there's anything they could learn.
You just at a factory in Savannah?
I think, you know what? Now that you mention it, Robbie.
Are there any car factories near Savannah?
It starts with an M. Is it the mini factory? No, that's not the word. Mini. Minute? No.
Interesting.
So I don't know what Mr. Filosa was doing in Savannah.
Might just have family there. We're just, we're speculating.
Oh, maybe that's it. Maybe he's just looking for a vacation home.
Let's go with that. That sounds that's probably it.
Maybe
sure.
He loves sweet tea. I don't know.
Maybe he loves sweet tea.
Maybe he just wanted to go to the site where Forrest Gump sat on a bench and said, life is like a box of chocolates.
Box of chocolates. That could be it too. You never know.
Apparently that bench is no longer there. But while we were walking back from the restaurant on Wednesday night, several of the people in our group stopped to take a picture of that location, and I took a picture of the people taking a picture of it.
Why is there?
Where is that? I didn't even know that was. I don't think I ever registered it was Savannah where that was. So.
Yeah, apparently it was in Savannah. Anyway, reason I brought that up is because we got some Stellantis news. The Ram Charger and the Ram Rev have been delayed again. The Ram Charger was supposed to come out in the second half of this year. And now it's not coming out till early 2026, maybe. And the Rev, the battery electric version, is not coming out till 2027. So, at this rate, if they keep delaying the Ram Charger, the question is, will will somebody else bring out an E-Rev truck before Stellantis does?
Yeah, you don't want to. I mean, if you look at, hold on, let me look at this. Hold on.
When was it originally supposed to be out? Originally.
It was supposed to be out like early 25, because when we were originally shown it in like November of 2023, they said that the Ram Rev would come out in Q4 of 2024, and then the Ram Charger a couple of months after that. And then they pushed the Rev out to 2026, and the Ram Charger into the second half of 25, and now it's first quarter of 26, and the Rev is out to 2027.
Do you think how long do you think they're going to build it? Like, do you really think they're going to build it, or do you think they're actually going to bail on this? What are the chances they bail?
I would not be surprised if they cancel the BEV version.
Yeah.
But the Ram Charger seems like something that they should be building. And Ford and GM are definitely going to build them. Scout is working on a E-Rev version of their vehicles. I think that Stellantis would be really missing out if they don't build the Ram Charger.
But I think the biggest competitor to the Cybertruck was Rivian. And Rivian has outsold the Cybertruck. And then Cybertruck has a bunch of other things around it. But if it had come out sooner, they probably would have done better. But also there's the fact that it's like double the price of what they said it was going to be. Well, more than double. Well, about double. Anyway,
more than double.
Yeah, try to be. Don't say, hey, we're doing a thing, and then let someone come in and steal your milkshake, and that's what's
steal your milkshake.
I feel like if Stellantis, I think I like the idea, the E-Rev, the Ram Charger E-Rev makes sense, I think, for a lot of truck people, because most of the time it's going to be in EV mode driving around town, except when you see your friend and you turn the gas motor on so you can go vroom vroom, and then the rest of the time you save money cruising around just taking care of your daily business.
Wait, how's that go one more time?
Vroom vroom.
Just clarifying. Thank you.
The truck market is people who want something that goes vroom vroom. Someone tried to roll coal on me while I was in Michigan.
In the Camry? Well, you were in the Camry?
Yeah, like they were really trying, but they were going too quick. And they couldn't get it to, they did it coming out of at a stop off a light, and then I came up behind them, and I could see them trying to do it and looking in the river, and I was just like, oh no. Like you made all these adjustments to your truck, to your diesel truck, and now you can't even make it work. I'm like, oh, take that, Earth.
Take that, Earth.
Trying to roll coal and just could not pull it off. I was like, oh. That's like saw somebody with a solid axle Mustang trying to do a burnout, and they couldn't. I was like, that's all that car's good for.
Yeah.
Sorry. Anyway, I'm again very tired, so I'm just rambling.
That's okay.
It's a bummer that the E-Revs come. Maybe if they can do it in 2026. Good.
Yeah.
Ram's a good truck.
Good? Question mark? Good.
I saw a Duramax. I think I told you guys all this last week, didn't I? About I saw a Super Duty and a Duramax within 5 minutes of each other, towing, but both of them had been lifted and had the tiny tires, and they didn't have the right hitch, and so they're both doing Caroline squat, where they're pointed up at a 20-degree angle, towing something. I'm like, that's the whole point of those vehicles.
Yeah,
is that you get these big.
You broke its fundamental reason for being.
Yes.
Yeah, it's almost it's almost this. It's sadder than when I see an STI or a WRX and it's been slammed, and I'm like, oh, but no, it's an auto. Oh, fine.
Yeah, do what you want to do.
A little bit more. It makes a little bit more sense, but also it hurts my heart a little bit, because I know the Subaru people work really hard on that suspension system to make it so it just sucks up everything, and now you've slammed it.
You've destroyed it. Sigh.
It's sigh, Robbie. Anyway, Ram Charger later.
Yeah. So, do you remember what 3 years ago now when Apple announced their next generation version of CarPlay.
Yeah.
100 years, yeah.
100 years ago.
Like a year and a half ago, they announced that Aston Martin and Porsche would be launching it in 2024. And all the other car makers whose logos were on the announcement, on the slide when they announced it back in 2022, they're all saying, yeah, no, we're not interested.
That was so long ago.
Aston Martin is finally launching what has now been rebranded as CarPlay Ultra.
Ultra.
Yeah. So
yeah.
They're putting it in the DBX. It doesn't have any big gigantic screen. You basically get the same traditional, maybe slightly upgraded version of the CarPlay experience on the center touchscreen. And it can also bring up, some of the controls like, your temperature controls and things like that with Apple designed widgets. And, you can have an Apple designed instrument cluster.
Mm.
All right.
Okay.
But I mean, pretty much most, certainly, anything remotely, anything above like, entry level now has a digital instrument cluster. And most of them offer multiple different gauge themes, or minimal themes, different style gauges and stuff like that.
You're like, I just want gauge, and it'll just give you gauge. I want all the information. It'll give you all the information.
Yeah.
What do they call it? Somebody calls it calm. One of the setting
calm.
that's
Lincoln, I think, has
is
a
it
calm
Lincoln?
mode.
It's just
Yeah.
calm. Like
Where
you don't
all
need
it
all
does
the
is give you the
information.
speedometer and
It's like this
nothing else.
minimalist screen.
And everybody's got different variations of that.
Mm-hmm.
So you still have to have your phone paired to do this. So my question is, why do you, since everybody's doing this anyway, and they've got different configurations that different themes, different skins you can pick from, why do you need CarPlay to do this for you?
Yeah. When I use CarPlay a lot, I get irritated because GM took it, it removed it from EVs. But at the same time, like, what?
I guess.
I guess if you like the aesthetic and you're like, I'm going to put this in my car, look what I can do. But at the same time, I'm like, all right. Was it something people are asking for?
I don't think anyone was asking for this.
It'll be interesting to see like how, when we get it behind the wheel and we're able to see what Aston Martin's just regular system is compared to this. Maybe it's just like head and shoulders amazing, but I don't know.
I don't know. I'm looking at these pictures on the
just
Aston
looks like
Martin
it just
website.
looks like it does look nice. It is very pretty.
Good. It
it's
doesn't
very
look bad
clean
or anything. Yeah,
it does look nice.
Yeah, it looks nice, but is it like, ooh?
Is it? I don't.
But,
It's hard to. And then again, software is really hard. UI is really hard. You're Aston Martin. You make like 7 cars a year, and so maybe that's that's where you lean into what you're good at and let someone else take care of the other bits. But again, it's already going to have its own thing. I don't know. All I know is that while I sit there and I yell at GM and for not having CarPlay, I'm still, and they've reduced it a little bit. I still get angry that when someone texts me, I reply, like it sort of takes over the screen. I'm like, well, there's an interchange. I don't know what to do because it's blocking the screen because Siri's blocking the screen. Thanks. What? Do the people who drive cars actually work on this?
I don't think so.
Yeah, no, I think it's yeah. Anyway, yeah, they're CarPlay. I think I yelled at a couple people who I know worked at Apple. I'm like, do you want me to go work there? I will help you. I want to fix this because this is just come on.
All right. And Infiniti, they're still around. They still sell some stuff. They are refreshing the QX60, which is their best seller for model year 2026. They've revised the grille a little bit. and it's now got the Android-based infotainment system in there, and they got rid of the V6 and replaced it with their 2-liter variable compression turbo 4-cylinder. What do you think?
I mean, I'm glad that they're using that variable compression system. Because when it first came out, I remember being very excited about it. Like, oh, this is amazing. And then at the end, and then it's like, you got 1 mile extra MPG. You're like, oh, that was very underwhelming. So
Yeah.
I'm glad that's it felt like just like, oh, like, like blowing my, like I worked with at the time I worked with a guy who used to be a mechanic, and we were like losing our minds about it, like, this is amazing. We're like, everyone else at Engadget was like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. And we were like, this is so great. And then the cars came out, and then what you got versus the hype was so underwhelming. You're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
But now it seems like they've gotten to a nice groove with it. That's been a while. That's like 8 years now.
Something like that. Yeah, it's been quite a few years since
It's been a while. Yeah, it's definitely
good for
been a
them
bit.
for sticking with it and not listening to me just being underwhelmed. You know, I think
The
everything's
haters. Don't listen to the haters,
don't
Infiniti.
listen to the haters. And when I say haters, I mean me.
So yeah, new grill. You know, it's fine. You know, I mean, the QX60 is not a bad looking, premium 3-row utility. You got any thoughts on it, Nicole?
I think it's fine. I want to be excited about it. I think it looks good. You know, it'll be. The Go Infiniti. It's okay.
At least the 2-liter engine is not paired with a CVT.
I mean, there's that. I mean,
it's got a 9-speed automatic.
Yes,
yeah.
Which is a big. I mean, that's good.
Yeah.
No CVT. I appreciate that they decided to do that.
I wish it was
good.
a hybrid, but we still have to wait for the road.
Like baby steps. Yeah.
Baby steps.
Yeah.
Baby steps.
Baby steps.
We believe in you.
It'll get there eventually. We believe in you. We believe in you. You can do it.
I think you can do it. I went and talked to a bunch of your bosses, and they seemed very like, I think we got this, but we know everything we've done wrong. Yeah. I think the ability to say, to essentially to own up or to recognize that there are issues is a huge deal, I think, for automakers, because some of them just never do. And you're
as I'm being sarcastic, but it truly is, because if they don't, there is a tendency when things go sideways to like, well, it was great, but it's sort of not like push off that they did anything wrong. And to hear them say, hey, you know what? Okay, we thought that was going to work. That didn't work the way we thought. And we made this misstep and we made that misstep. Doesn't make up for it, but at least the acknowledgement of it. You can't fix it if they can't look it in the eye and say what happened,
Yeah. Which is how Nissan got in this problem in the first place, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This person couldn't. There was no self-awareness from the CEO.
Yes.
CEOs.
Well, it looks like their new CEO, their incoming CEO, Ivan Espinosa, does have some self-awareness. I've met him, talked to him a couple times. He comes from the product side, from product planning. He was the head of product planning for Nissan globally for the last few years. And at their earnings conference call this week, they announced some restructuring for Nissan. They call it the re-Nissan plan, which
re-Nissan.
Fine. Well, all right.
But they're going to be reducing their global workforce by 20,000 people by 2027, and reducing the number of assembly plants from 17 down to 10.
I mean, it's horrible that so many people are going to have to find new jobs. They're going to lose their jobs, but Nissan has to make hard decisions, really, to be honest, or it's not going to be around for very long. So hopefully these hard decisions will mean it, like, eventually they can reopen those factories, they can rehire people, etc.
Yeah, I mean, they've got a lot of factories that are very underutilized, and it just right now it doesn't make sense to have so many plants. And this will help them reduce their fixed costs. They also announced cancellation of a lithium iron phosphate battery plant in Japan, in Kyushu, which is unfortunate.
Well, they're really gung ho on their their solid state battery, what they're working on, and that's what, by the end of the decade. I read an article. I don't know where it's at. I think 2028. I think we're gonna see something.
Yeah.
2027. And at this point, you're gonna have to source things because you just don't have the capital to run a whole plant when you can probably just source it out, which is a bummer, but yeah.
And if you don't have the volume to justify building your own factory, you're better off to just buy it.
Yeah, and these are factories are billions and billions of dollars of investment to build a factory, regardless of what it's batteries, cars, EVs, whatever widget. Factories are not they're very expensive. B, they take forever. These are not things you just throw up in 18 months. This is a lot of work, a lot of planning, a lot of real estate, a lot of working with local governments, a lot of schmoozing, a lot of working with regional and state governments and federal governments. And there's so much that has to go into all of that. And that's just one. And now you got to, let's do it 3 more times.
Yeah. It's a lot.
All right. And then finally, we've often talked about Miatas, and I think we're mostly all big fans of the Miata. But the one downside of the Miata, for a lot of people, is it is very small. I happen to fit in one, but Robbie, I think
I only fit in the current generation Miata. And even it's a little tight, but every previous generation of Miata, I just did not fit in. Because the way they had if it was the hard top, nope.
Yeah.
It's like,
the
I'm out.
top, usually the bar was right where my head was, and any bump was just me smacking my head into one of the support bars.
Well, that's why they should always just be driven, top down.
Top down all the time. Never put the top up. Pretend you don't have one at all.
Nonstop all the time. Anyway, but the current 0.5 or whatever they're calling it, I actually fit. I had it for a week. I really enjoyed it. I got in my BRZ and it felt like an expedition after driving the Miata.
So Jalopnik had a piece this week titled, "I want a sports car, but I'm too big for a Miata. What should I buy?" And the first one here suggested is the Pontiac Solstice and Saturn Sky, which GM conceived, as sort of their take on the Miata. It's a little bigger than a Miata. And it's definitely something that you only want to drive top down because the top is so fiddly and finicky. It's just such an enormous pain in the neck to put up and down that it really only should be driven top down. Regular Miatas, if you fit in it, the top is brain dead easy to put up and down. Mm-hmm. The Solstice and Sky were not that. And then the next suggestion was for the GR86 BRZ.
Yay! From Amber to Silva.
Yeah,
Amber's great, and high five to Amber for this.
Yeah, and then the next suggestion was the Lotus Evora, which is the previous generation Lotus sports car, not the current gen Emira. But what do you think? Do either of you have any suggestions other than those three?
Oh, besides this, because I'm just whenever I say, I'm I have the BRZ, which is the Miata for tall people. What is a good convertible?
I'm literally trying to think what a small, fun.
I think there's the mini convertible. They have that Roadster, and then they just have a regular mini convertible. And minis are just fun to drive anyway.
Was the parameters? It has to be a little sporty thing,
a sports car.
Yeah, sports car.
I mean, sports car.
Budget up to $40,000. So this is a reader that sent this in. $40,000 budget. They're in Lincoln, Nebraska. Not using it as a daily driver. Wants fun, easy to repair, reasonably reliable, and something not too small.
And not new. What about a Z? What about a Nissan Z?
I think the Z is a great option. It starts at $40,000.
Is that bigger, Robbie? Is that more comfortable?
It's a little bit bigger. I'm gonna say it's not as fun as the BRZ, GR86. I
Yeah,
mean, there's
I
the
would
GR
agree.
Corolla, but that's a tight little car, and that's like next
Yeah.
level. That's like I'm bonkers, and I don't care about my kidneys or my spine. All I care about is rolling my own rolling my own gears and having the most fun I've ever had in a car, and then that's the end of and then the next day not being able to get out of bed.
And since these
Oh,
all
I was
three of
saying
these
S2000,
suggestions,
but that's not going to work. It's too small.
I think all three of two of these three are used cars. Another used car that I would suggest taking a look at is a used BMW Z4.
Yeah, I was that
Oh
The
yeah,
that was on
previous gen
my
Z4.
yeah, I
yeah,
was
the
thinking of that one too.
Z4.
That's a fun little car. How
Yeah.
too little, Robbie, or not too
No,
little?
I think the Z4 should be fine. Germans make big cars.
Yeah, I'm just looking at Auto Trader right now, and there's a used 2019 Beaton Z4, 71,000 miles, 29,000. And there's a 2010, which 66,000 miles, $18,000.
There you go.
So, yeah, you can get a used Z4 for a pretty reasonable price. I mean, it's going to cost you a fortune in parts eventually, but
Yeah, that's the yeah.
But
I
it's
mean,
you can get one for well under 40 grand, and so that leaves you money to spend on parts.
money and just buy the tools. It's going to be so expensive to fix this car.
Yeah.
The Subaru is. I'm still thinking that's probably the best bet. But if you want even if you get the minis, you're going to have the same sort of like issue. I mean, the mini's just a BMW convertible. But yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna keep. I mean, that's why I have a BRZ.
Yeah, no, BRZ, GR86 are great. The only downside is they're not convertibles. So
I wish it was convertible.
If you don't care, if it's a hardtop, then yeah, those are absolutely great options to consider. Especially for for something new. If you want something that is that's open top, you're gonna pretty much have to go used, and then that I think I would probably be inclined to stay away from the Solstice or Sky.
I would not buy the Solstice or the Sky. I would go for the Z4. The Z4 is your better option.
And if you were to get the Solstice or Sky, absolutely get the Solstice GXP or the Sky Redline with the turbo 2-liter. Don't get the base 2.4 liter. It's not good.
Yeah, you'll be
it's
sad.
Not good. It's not.
Yeah.
Good.
But I think that a used Z4 is absolutely something to consider as well.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, we do have a couple of listener emails. First up from Ed. He wrote in, regarding the upcoming auto tariffs, I understand that the importers of parts and autos pay it and pass it to consumers. But what entity does the extra money eventually go to? Well, since tariffs are an import tax, federal taxes all go to the U.S. Treasury.
The feds.
Yeah. So goes into the Treasury and gets spent on,
other
things like, F-35s and, upgrading 747s for members of the executive branch to fly around in. And then Adam Jakowenko also wrote in, said, hey, crew, not sure if I missed it or not, but did Nicole ever give a review ownership experience of the Wagoneer S? I don't know of anyone who owns one, so would love to hear her review, pros and cons, likes and dislikes, etc. now that she's had it for a while.
Okay, so I did not, so you've missed nothing, but I can do that for you now. So I got the Wagoneer S launch edition in the very beginning of March, April, May, June, so almost 3 months. Keep in mind, I drive press cars a lot. I travel a lot. I was on vacation for a week. So it's not as much driving as the average person has probably done in 3 months of owning a car, but I have had a chance to drive it. So overall, I'm enjoying it. I mean, I don't really have any complaints. I have had exactly one problem. I don't know if I talked about this in the show. It's kind of a weird thing. The frunk wouldn't shut. So the first time I opened the frunk, like I just didn't open it right away. And I thought, I should open this. And I closed it. It popped back open. Kind of like, when you pop the latch on a hood, it just like pops like whatever, like a half an inch. So you can lift it up. Yeah, that it was doing that. and I could not get it. Russ could not get it. We called the dealer who doesn't live that far away, or it doesn't, the dealership is not that far away. And he drove over here with one of the guys. He's like, let us see if we can get it closed. He's like, because if not, we're going to have to tow it because you can't drive it with a frunk that won't shut. It just as they were like, you know, push,
You can
push,
just get
push.
some bungee cords and
Just
wrap them around
bungee
under the
cord it,
bottom.
right?
Yeah,
But they did.
cord, duct
Like
tape.
as he was about to give up, he's like, I don't know. And all of a sudden it shut. And the guy's like, okay, hands off. We're going to drive it to the dealership now and see what's happening. And they just had to adjust the latch slightly and it works fine. That's literally been the only issue, which was a weird fluke of an issue. Drives beautifully. I'm enjoying it. It charges, you know, I feel like I've been running it to about an 80% charge. I don't fully charge it because I want to be nice to my battery and I haven't gone on a road trip. So I just have it set up to only charge to 8%. I've driven it back and forth into Boston a bunch of times. It's been great. I don't have any complaints. It's fun. It's comfy. It's nice and quiet. Russ finally got to drive it. Now, mind you, I drove this at the launch, so I knew what I was getting. Russ did not. And I think he's you know, he drives a Wrangler. And so in his head, every Jeep is a Wrangler. And he's like, oh, this is nicer. Like, yeah, this is not a Wrangler, sweetie. And he's driving it around. He's like, I really like this car. And he took it up to visit a friend the other day because he wanted to show his friend that was asking about it. And it was the first like long drive Russ had done. He's like, that thing's really fun. That's got some power. Yes, it does. So it is just a hoot, you know, the EV thing where you mash the pedal and it's just wee.
Did he get in
and
did he talk like he was driving in a Wrangler? He was just like trying to talk over the wind and
I know he talked too loud for no reason.
Like, hey,
yeah,
Nicole, this is really great. Like, sweetie, you can
take that down a notch. It was fun and he's been having a great time with it. All of the like, it's been a while since I bought a new car. I mean, I last bought a new one in 2010 and then Russ has the Wrangler. It's, I don't know, 3 or 4 years old. But my 2010 had none of the tech in it. And I know how to use it all, but I have not sat down to do every last piece of that on a new car all at once. And because I'm not going to,
when you live with it.
right? And I thought, I'm not going to do this for every single press car I own. It takes too much time. Holy heck, does it ever? There was so much to customize. And then Russ, I customize everything and have my little, you know, I'm driver number 1 and I can push the buttons and everything goes to driver number 1. So my seats and everything. And Russ comes to me, he's like, I set up a driver profile. I can even pick this. I'm like, that's exactly how that's supposed to work. So don't mess with mine. Make sure you only use number 2. So he's all excited with his little driver profile. It's been fun. And we've taken a couple of people out for different drives. We picked up my brother-in-law and his wife, took them for a drive. I said, you know, okay, you guys ride in the back. What do you think? They loved it. In fact, he liked it so much. He went out with Russ last night. I was in the press car, so I didn't take it. And we had, he was here with his brother. He's like, no, let's take Nicole's car. Are you allowed to take Nicole's car? I was like, yeah, I'm allowed to take Nicole's car. So, you know, they really like it and I'm happy with it. It does exactly what I wanted it to do. Part of why I got an EV was literally just because I wanted to own an EV. As an automotive journalist, I thought, okay, I talk about them, I drive them, I have experience with them, but I've never owned one. So if I'm really going to talk about EV life, I should own one and find out what it's like, especially here where our charging infrastructure is not, you know, what Robbie gets in California. I have not had to charge it outside of home yet. I mean, even driving back and forth to Boston, I can do that a bunch of times, like 2 or 3 times, I think almost, before I would need to charge it, even just charging it to 80%. And they have free charging at the airport. So if right? Yeah. So
you've shenanigans that I'm not aware.
Free charging at Logan Airport if you're in their covered parking garage is not a lot. And you know, over the years, it's been kind of neat to watch because they had it felt like a big amount of it, right? You go by and say there's 30 spots, there'd be 5 cars. Then there was 10. Now sometimes there's no spots. So you can see as more and more people are driving them, more and more often there aren't spots where you can plug in. But I mean, when it's free, I plug in, I come back and my car is charged right back up to 80% and it's ready to go. I do like the fact that I don't have to go to a gas station. It's fun. And the ownership experience has been good. I really don't have any complaints. Other than the little hood latch or frunk latch situation, everything has been great. I've really enjoyed it. And it's been neat too. So a couple of weeks. So Russ has the plug-in hybrid. I have this, and a couple of weeks we've had an EV as a press car, and we have one charger. And I thought, well, let's see how this all goes. And it was never really an issue. There's a little bit of like a shuffle, like, okay, let's plug in the Jeep for a little bit, the Wagoneer, and then we're going to plug in this one. Oh, we should charge up the press vehicle because it's going to take. So you're swapping back and forth a little bit, but still swapping a cable back and forth to charge things in the driveway, far less time than pulling into a gas station, gassing the car, doing all that. So it's been very easy to live with just our one charging port. We don't have two chargers. Like you can get them that they're like dual. We just have one because we only had one car for the longest time that needed it. So overall, I am a fan of the Wagoneer S. I'm really enjoying driving it. So ownership experience 3 months in, I am pleased and I am not at all disappointed. I'm loving my car.
They have free charging at SFO as well, but there's like 14 stalls, 15 stalls. I'm like, oh, those are all, especially in San Francisco.
In San Francisco. Well, it is getting that way.
You need like hundreds of stalls if you want everyone to be able to get the free charging.
There's like 2 sections of EV charging on one level of the garage. So it's very limited. And the first section that you come across is very rarely. There's only like a spot or two of this entire long row. But then if you kind of like drive over to the other side, and that I don't think everybody, sometimes people just drive by the first one and give up.
Stop sharing.
I know. I just gave it away to everyone in Boston. The other side has some. But I'd say 80% of the time I can charge when I leave my car at the airport. Yeah, so thumbs up for the Jeep Wagoneer S.
I think one of the things that's needed, for someplace like an airport parking garage where cars tend to be left for longer periods of time. They're not just there for a couple of hours, typically, is, maybe offer valet parking, so that, there's somebody there that can move the cars around. So once the car's finished charging, just move it to another spot. And
it would be neat if they did it, because when you can't just park in the spot. You obviously have to be plugged in and charging. But if you just plug in and charge and it takes you 10 minutes to charge and I'm gone for 3 days, the car still sits there. I don't have any way to relocate that.
Even if that's 3 kilowatts, I mean, in a day you're done. And
right.
So
it's
there for like
it's just sitting there.
I'm gone.
Right. So it's kind of a weird situation where you think if there was a way for them. But then I don't know, you probably have to pay, or they'd have to pay. There'd be something you'd have to pay, because you'd have to have someone who was coming through, even if they just came through once a day. It's not like you have to move at the instant things. If just once a day
or a couple times a day, like maybe every 6 hours or something.
Yeah, and just move the cars that were charged fully. You would probably open that right up. But I don't know that they, it would require, when you think about that, okay, to move them all from where they're charging and then move them to another spot. Like, where would that other spot be? You know what I mean? They'd have to have a done EVs charging section. Otherwise, they're randomly in the garage, and the poor guy's trying to find a place to put it. But yeah, so I'm enjoying my Wagoneers. I even saw it yesterday on the highway. A guy driving along in his, like, it was like a panel truck, like he's like a delivery van or something. He's like, nice car. He was all excited. So I'm like, yeah, thanks.
Well, I'm glad that's working out for you.
It is.
One thing I would like to hear from you at some point is, your experience doing a DC fast charge with it to see, what kind of speeds you get.
Yeah.
And how long it charges at that speed.
I haven't had to. At some point, I'll probably have a chance in a week or a couple weeks in June, because we're going on a bit of a drive, and we'll probably take that. So I will be required to stop and plug that in and charge. So I'll have to see how easily that goes, and I'll let you know on that charging experience.
Okay, cool. All right. That's it for this week. Thank you all for listening, and we'll be back next time.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.